welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Lorene Tanaka. We are here this morning with Kaleo Schneider and Jessica Munoz. Thank you so much for being here. Now, Kaleo is the educational coordinator of Ho Ola Na Pua, and Jessica is the director of Ho Ola Na Pua. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please tell us, what is Ho Ola Na Pua?
So Ho Ola Na Pua, which means New Life for Our Children, is a Hawaii-based nonprofit that is focused on the rescue and restoration of children who have been taken out of a life of sexual exploitation. So the reason we call it New Life is because this issue of trafficking goes so much beyond even just needing a home for the girls to be rescued and restored within, but there really is a community involvement in this effort. And so we basically have a four-pronged approach to dealing with the issue of sex trafficking here in Hawaii.
Now, talking, if I may just interrupt you for a bit, trafficking, you're talking about sex trafficking
Yes.
of minors.
Yes.
And that's a real concern here in Hawaii. It's not just something that's happening elsewhere, right? And specifically sex trafficking.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, specifically for children who have been sexually exploited or sex trafficked. You can use both terms interchangeably.
You know, we want to think it's not happening here.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Most people do. I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I started this project about 4.5 years ago, I was like most people who thought of trafficking existing only in countries outside of the United
Exactly.
States. And so, I mean, and I have an extensive background in dealing with pediatric trauma and working in the healthcare profession. I mean, my day job is I'm a nurse practitioner. And so it was interesting when I was exposed to the issue of trafficking to realize, wow, this is not just happening overseas, this is happening right here, and it's happening to our local children. And it's heartbreaking. And when you learn more and more and more about it, you start to realize, wow, we really don't have a lot to offer these kids. And so it kind of led me down this path of wanting to look at the problem from a comprehensive perspective. We're realizing that it wasn't enough just to go, okay, yes, we need aftercare, but to get to the point of getting an aftercare home or facility open for these kids, you have to make people aware. And so our project has taken a four-pronged approach where we deal with the education and awareness piece. We've also identified that you have to decrease the demand. And how do you do that?
Yes.
You need stricter legislative laws that protect our children. And then the third aspect is the limiting supply, which is what Kaleo has done very well in taking full reign on and starting our Smart Courage school awareness program. And then the fourth approach is looking at the rescue and restoration piece, which is the long-term licensed residential special treatment facility specific for underage girls who've been sexually exploited.
Okay, long-term residential, so there's going to be, they can stay there.
Yes.
And heal.
And heal.
Now, how are we educating people about this? You said we have to get word out.
Well, that's what I do right now. So I've been trained by an organization called Shared Hope International out of Washington State. And what I saw was they were handling the other three approaches: the legislation, the homes were there, and the awareness, but there was no real education in the school system as to like what this looks like, what a child might be encountering on the street as far as victimization. So we put together a program with a little group here, and as part of Ho Ola Na Pua, and we started getting into the school system. Right now we use a 20-minute DVD from Shared Hope. It's a movie called Chosen, and it's specifically made for, I'd say 6th to 12th grades. And it's two girls on the video showing how they were chosen to be sex trafficking victims. The average age in the United States is 12 to 14 years old, so very young. And it's happening here in Hawaii, the same ages. So we show the video, we have a PowerPoint, we explain what human trafficking or sex trafficking looks like so they know what the signs are, because if they know what the signs are, they're less apt to become a victim. And from there, we have a little discussion, and then we're in and out of the classroom in an hour. But that same program we also do for adults because it's very informative.
Now, you said average age is 12 to 14. That means there are younger. And there are older.
Yes.
Well, and oftentimes the victimization starts when these kids are children. I mean,
How does that start?
The victimization oftentimes starts in the home, unfortunately. Most of these girls have been sexually abused, and a lot of them have actually been exploited by their own family. So, you know, they've endured quite a significant amount of abuse within the home, and oftentimes that can lead them to wanting to run away. And being a runaway or running away from home is probably the #1 risk factor, because within 48 hours of a runaway, running away from home, 90% will be approached for sex services.
Within 48 hours?
Within 48 hours.
They might not recognize it necessarily as sex services, but there are traffickers out there just looking for runaways. So they may be approached for, you know, a place to stay or a meal. They're being approached. They're being, you know, they're being looked at carefully by somebody who's, you know, got ulterior motives. They're not being trafficked right away, but somebody will, you know, notice them out there on the street, especially if they're a runaway.
And it's because they may be a minor that's out on the street like at 11 o'clock at night and looking like they are not going anywhere in particular and just kind of hanging out. Is that how they?
Yes, in fact,
find
over and over and over, you will hear the same story. A girl ran away from home. I've just heard one recently. She had a fight with her mother. It was just an argument with her mother. It wasn't even anything serious. There was nothing else going on in the home. She got upset. She ran off into Waikiki, and she met a really nice guy who took care of her.
Right.
And that's how it starts out, with a boyfriend situation, but he wasn't a nice guy. And eventually, once he got her confidence and he groomed her a little, it turns into basically trafficking and sex trafficking situation where there's a lot of violence and repetitive rape.
So the word trafficking, though, doesn't necessarily mean that they are snatched and whisked away somewhere, as in trafficked to another. It happens if they stay here.
Yeah. Smuggling is when there's two people that have an agreement and they will go across borders. Trafficking is different, so it doesn't have that definition. So everybody confuses smuggling and trafficking a lot. Smuggling is what you see where, you know, somebody gets in a van and goes over a border and they're brought in from a country.
Their whole, you know.
But usually those two people involved in a smuggling situation are both in agreement. In this situation, trafficking, there's always somebody that is being exploited by another.
Is that smuggling as the same as kidnapping?
No, because smuggling is basically an agreement to take somebody across the border, usually for, you know, because somebody is of a different, you know, from a different country. So, you know, taking somebody from Mexico into the United States or vice versa.
Okay, it's not just within the states.
Right. So the definitions are really different, and that's where a lot of people get confused.
Wow. This is alarming. And it is happening to our local children here.
Yes.
And so, okay, so somebody is snatched and they are...
They're not necessarily snatched. Like right now, what's happening is the average way that the police department's been telling us that most of the girls they're picking up right now have met a man who has befriended them. And through that friendship, it has turned into a boyfriend relationship, and that relationship has turned into trafficking. That's really the way we show the kids in the school right now, because there's a platform for a lot of it, which is pornography on the internet, which leads to sometimes chatting on the internet, then to strip clubs. And from strip clubs, it's really an easy process to buy a girl. So there's a supply and demand created by that, and the supply has to come from somewhere. So the girls are younger and younger. And the internet, they're grooming a lot of girls on social media right now. Recently.
Grooming a lot of girls on social media?
Yes, they're not
that
just...
sounds scary in itself.
Well, so what I teach in the schools is what it looks like to be a victim, where to be and what to look for.
Well, let's share some of that.
Yeah. So recently I did an article that came out in the paper, which is what's leading to our conversation today. From that article, I got a call from a mother recently, and her daughter wanted to be in a modeling agency. So just to give you an idea, there's some modeling agencies that aren't legitimate modeling agencies, like we would, you know, where you have a portfolio and you go in and take pictures. So we actually talk about that to the girls in the schools.
Some people just approach you on the street or at a shopping mall, right?
Right.
You're so beautiful, you should be a model, and I can take your pictures.
And so girls succumb to that very easily, especially because, in a regular agency, pictures, portfolios cost money.
Oh, yes.
They're not going to be these things won't be requested of a girl going to an agency that isn't necessarily legitimate. Also, their approach, just, a boyfriend-girlfriend situation. That's probably the number one, but social
Trying
media.
to be the boyfriend.
Right. And then on social media, because social media and kids are so hooked into it, they have Facebook. And just to give you an idea, a lot of girls don't have any controls on their Facebook. So when I do my program in school, we talk about this, how important it is that you do not let the whole world see your profile. And so if you're
So
a
in other
girl,
words, they keep it to friends only, or
right?
okay.
Because if you're a girl going young and you're going through an emotional situation and you're putting it on Facebook, there's people out there looking for those types of posts, and so you just have to be really careful.
And a lot of these children, because they're so young, they don't understand that something as innocently as saying what school they go to is, wow, that just totally opened up.
When they have the location on their
Oh, yeah, where you're
GPS,
from, your hometown.
wherever they are, where they make a post and it shows up, that's not a good thing to have as a teenager. When you're an adult, you can make all kinds of decisions, but really young girls and young children of all ages should be very careful, and parents
Yeah.
should really, be checking these kind of things out, really
Right?
looking at.
They don't have the
Yeah.
wherewithal to make better decisions on what they're going to do. What are some of the laws in Hawaii that are related to sex trafficking?
Well, right now there's 5 bills that are in the legislature this year. One was a sex trafficking bill, which is what you kind of heard in the news recently with the policeman, HPD, and limiting the type of access that an officer would have to
Make the
a
arrest.
prostituted woman or child. But that bill had other components to it that are very important. So that was one. We also had one for juvenile prostitution court. We had one for what they call revenge porn. Revenge porn are pictures taken. A lot of times the girls have pictures taken of them, and it's used against them to keep them in the line of work. And so it's revenge.
The threat that's saying we're going to post this.
And they usually do in the end. And so the pictures end up on all kinds of sites, and those pictures never go away. So they want to enact a law to protect against that. There's one for victim services, which is a really good one, and we are hoping that one makes it all the way through, and I believe it will. So that victims of trafficking, prostitution, this type of thing, these issues will be protected, and not protected, but there will be a fund created by some of the fines and the fees, so that the victims will have some compensation for, because it's extremely expensive to rehabilitate, and Jessica will talk about that.
Yeah, that's perfect.